Kmart, I'm going to start with you on this one. What do you think the best fit is for Saquon?
Okay, the most interesting, as we were just talking about on Get Up, is going to be the Cowboys. But the best fit for Saquon from a football standpoint is the Houston Texans. And I just came back from Indy at the Combine, and I was told down there is big interest on both sides there. And it makes sense because when you look at the Texans, the roster that they have under DeMeco Ryans, you've got playmakers, you've got C.J. Stroud. Those two have already teamed up in the offseason, C.J. and Saquon. You've got Tank Dell coming back off of injury. Dalton Schultz, they just brought back, re-signing him. So when you look at the Texans and what they were able to do, considering the fact that we thought C.J. Stroud, hopefully he has a good season. The Texans, I don't know, do they have the pieces? They were hard out in the playoffs. Up until they faced Baltimore, they got rid of the Browns in the postseason. This is a up-and-coming team with an emerging talent. I mean, C.J. Stroud, Offensive Player, Rookie of the Year. Mm-hmm. If I'm Saquon and I want to feel loved, something that I haven't felt in a while, I'm seeing the organization that drafted me pay the quarterback a lot of money and still try to, in his mind, might be trying to nickel and dime me. I want to go somewhere where I'm going to a contender and a roster that has talent where I can be the guy, but I don't have to be the only guy. And I think the Texans provide that for him.
Yeah, I think she's absolutely right. And when you're talking about teams that have an opportunity to make waves in the playoffs, it's the Houston Texans. And Kimberly stated that so well. I want to go in a different place. If I'm Ryan Poles and the Chicago Bears.
You're not going to take me to Chicago.
I would see if Saquon Barkley being a part of my team is something I can make happen. Here's why. This is a team with cap space. This is the team that will have the first overall pick. They have so many draft assets to use, too. This is a heavy wide receiver draft. So now you get an opportunity to add a skill set in that room that's different. You're going to have a young quarterback in Caleb Williams. What's a young quarterback's best friend?
Talk about it.
A great run game. Okay. And so now you get Saquon Barkley, who's going to have something to prove, who can also be a dump-off asset or a guy that you can get one-on-one with linebackers to get the football out of Caleb Williams' hands if him playing on time is something that you want to see. I believe to add that level of explosivity, to add that level of excitement to an offense that only had DJ Moore last year. Part of what we talk about when we assess Justin Fields has to be that Justin Fields ain't have nobody to give it to or throw it to. And so now you add a guy like Saquon Barkley to what will be Caleb Williams and some of the other pieces you can pick up with your draft capital and also the type of money you will have under the salary cap. I think that could be a big move, but I do believe the Houston move is the biggest for the receiver, and that allows that team to step up a level.
If you were Saquon, would you? And somebody said, how about Chicago? Is that where you want to go, RC?
No, if I'm Saquon, I want to go to H-Town. That's the reason I've already talked to C.J. Stroud.
Yes.
But the other thing that talks is money.
Money, fair.
And if the Chicago Bears make it worth his while, that's a place he can go, be wanted, and be used.
Yeah, I think ultimately when you're talking about money, the market's going to dictate that for him.
Yeah.
Look, running backs are not in a position of strength right now. They're really going to more or less have to accept whatever the market gives them. And with the glut of running backs on the market and the kind of the level of talent that's coming out of college and what people have gotten out of third, fourth, fifth round draft picks in relative, when you're comparing production with what they cost, a lot of teams are going to say, hey, look, Saquon, Derrick Henry, all of you guys are just going to have to kind of wait. You're kind of at our mercy in terms of how we set the market for you. That being said, hey, look, I think Saquon has stated numerous different times that going back to New York is his number one preference, that he wants to retire a Giant, that he wants to be a Giant for life. And I think a lot of times, Ryan, look, you've been through free agency before. I think a lot of times, your mindset, especially when it comes to changing football teams, has to be right on point in order for you to ultimately give a team the kind of production that they're looking for and for you to be satisfied. And if you're not all in on it in terms of changing locations, if it's not the perfect fit for you, a lot of times you need to really, really investigate whether or not you even want to leave your original location in the first place. So I think for Saquon, he needs to think long and hard about that. And I'm not saying that, there aren't better football teams out there for him to go to, but I think your mindset is very important in terms of ultimately what your production is going to look like if you go somewhere else. Yeah. Now, that being said, going down to Houston, I think philosophically what they like to do in the run game is what really fits what Saquon is best at. I think Bobby Slowick's offense, very similar in terms of run game philosophy to what San Francisco wants to do. That wide zone, one cut the backside of the defense, create a seam, and hit it downhill type of scheme is perfect for Saquon. I think the threat of him being a home run threat, the threat of CJ pulling that and throwing the football puts defenses in a bind. It just does. And that obviously, with the use of different formation grouping, or rather personnel groupings, formation variation, motion, it's going to create a lot of opportunities, I think, for a guy like Saquon that maybe he's just not getting in New York. Maybe the offense just isn't quite the same. So I think it would really highlight his talents. The question is, does he really want to move on? Because your mind has to be right. And look, if you've talked to C.J. Stroud, I haven't talked to Saquon Barkley about ultimately what he wants or what he thinks the best fit for him is. But it seems like on paper, Houston would make a lot of sense. It is a team that there's a lot of good feelings around. And in New York, you tell me. I mean, it's a rhetorical question, quite honestly. Are there a lot of good feelings around New York right now for anyone?
No. There's the emotional piece of it. I want to end my career as a New York Giant. And as I've watched Saquon over his career, he has always handled himself and comported himself the way we always say, he does it the right way, which is why you want to see him compensated, those type of players who carry the offense without complaining. But at the same time, though, guys, if you don't love me like I think I deserve to be loved, and somebody over here is going to show me love, but also the compensation, and also there are no questions about the quarterback that I would be playing with, I need Saquon to not care about the emotion and just follow logic for a second, because he has always sort of wanted to be the do-right guy by the Giants. But I think in this stage of his career, what makes sense for him on the football field and also having a chance at the playoffs, a chance at going deep in the playoffs, is Houston.
Well, you know what? It's always about leverage, right? And so if you're the New York Giants, here's your leverage. He's a New Jersey kid.
Yes.
Right? He gets to play for an organization that he grew up watching. His parents are close. His friends are around. And you've also built this life over the last 4 or 5 years that feels extremely comfortable. And so for Saquon Barkley, it's going to be stepping out of that comfort zone and realizing what's best for my career. What's best for your career is go to a place that when Devin Singletary played well in Bobby Slowick's offense, there was no stopping the Houston Texans because of who they had at quarterback. A defense that's going to continue to get better under head coach and defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans. And I'm never going to tell somebody take $9.99 on $10, right? If you believe you're supposed to get 10, if you put 10 out, you're supposed to get 10 back.
Right.
But it's about being smart and looking at where can my career continue to flourish? Where can I be in meaningful football games and continue to build my legacy? Plant my feet down and say, I'm going to be here the next 4 or 5 years as a running back, because we know how quick the league gives up on you.
Right.
And I think Houston can provide that, especially if you develop a relationship with their young QB.
All right, Lewis, anything you want to add there?
What we're saying is you got to marry the personal with the professional. And that at this point, maybe the professional will win out. Maybe the market will speak in his favor in terms of it being best for him to go elsewhere. And maybe it will. I'm just saying, it's stacked against the running backs once again, because the market is absolutely deep in terms of veteran runners. Some of them have mileage, some of them don't. Some of them are going to come at tremendous value. And then what the draft is bringing and what precedent has already shown you, which is teams are looking for the next Isaiah Pacheco. They're looking for it. They're looking for cost-cutting measures at certain positions, and running back is square in their crosshairs. I'm just hoping that he doesn't get caught up in it, and he gets to a place where personally he's happy and professionally they win football games. That's what you want for a guy like Saquon Barkley.
Amen.